Chapter 91. 91, Not interested. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 91. Not interested. Translator. Min in Zhou Si's mind, a notion had begun to form, though he was hesitant to believe it. To him, Gu Dai had always been the image of a lonely girl. However, the striking resemblance she bore made it hard for him to disregard his suspicions. Lost in his thoughts, Zhou Si blurted out, "Why are you here paying respects to the founder of the Gu group? What's your relation to them?" Gu Dai, with her arms folded and an indifferent expression, replied, "Haven't you already guessed?" It had to be admitted that Zhou Si was a bit sharper than Song Ling. Nevertheless, it took him a moment to fully process the revelation coming straight from Gu Dai's mouth. Staring in disbelief, he said, "You're really the Gu family's young lady." Meng Ji, looking somewhat disdainful, cast a glance at Zhou Si, as if looking at an idiot, then gently advised Gu Dai, "Dai, don't associate with men like him, understand?" Gu Dai nodded, replying, "Don't worry, one understand." Even without Meng Ji's reminder, Gu Dai wouldn't have mingled much with Zhou Si. Men who were smooth talkers and frequent visitors to clubs were not her type. Moreover, knowing that Zhou Si was a close friend of Song Ling, she was even more reluctant to be around him. After he heard their conversation, Zhou Si's hairs all stood up, as he quickly interjected with a forced smile, "Miss Gu, or rather, Chairwoman Gu, we've known each other for years. Don't be so distant. By the way, have you eaten? Would one have the honor of inviting you to dinner?" Rumors about Miss Gu were widespread. Zhou Si had heard more than once from his parents about her influence, and with the recent surge in the Gu family's stock value, he believed that if he could facilitate cooperation between the Meng and Gu families, not only would his parents view him favorably, but his position in the company would also improve. With that in mind, Zhou Si enthusiastically continued, "I also heard you enjoy art. There's a master artist currently hosting an exhibition in the capital. I happen to have 2 tickets. Would you be interested in going with me?" Initially, Zhou Si had planned to take an actress who recently rose to fame to the exhibition, but with the presence of someone as significant as Gu Dai, the actress was now secondary. Meng Ji's gaze grew colder, clearly not pleased with Zhou Si's audacious invitation towards his sister. Unfazed by Meng Ji's piercing stare, even though it was so deadly that it could probably kill him several times over, Zhou Si continued to fix his gaze on Gu Dai. "Even if you're not interested in the above offers, you can choose a destination. Whether it's to the ends of the earth, I'm willing to accompany you." However, Gu Dai, not even sparing him a glance, coldly responded, "Any scenario where one see you isn't of interest to me." Zhou Si was taken aback. How did the post-amnesia Gu Dai, who used to be so easily influenced, become so indifferent after regaining her memory? Originally, Zhou Si had entertained the thought of playing matchmaker between Song Ling and Gu Dai if Song Ling ever regretted his choices. But seeing Miss Gu's temperament now, Zhou Si could only conclude without surprise that Song Ling likely had no chance in this lifetime. After Gu Dai spoke, she turned her attention to Meng Ji, speaking softly, "Third brother, I'd like some solitude for now. Can you please take him away?" Without hesitation, Meng Ji nodded, as he had long been annoyed by Zhou Si's presence. Lin Sheng, who had been standing nearby, stepped forward. The 2 of them each grabbed one of Zhou Si's arms and began to drag him away. As he was being dragged, Zhou Si called out, still unrelenting, Dai, you can't be this heartless. We might not have been close before, but our bond can still grow." Lin Sheng, unable to tolerate Zhou Si's continued shouting, covered his mouth. Muffled sounds escaped Zhou Si's mouth as he was pulled away. After Zhou Si had left, the area around Gu Dai returned to silence. She silently began to sweep the fallen leaves from the front of the tombstone. She then took out 3 sticks of incense, her eyes filled with sorrow. After bowing 3 times in front of the tombstone, she stood silently. Upon entering the graveyard, Song Ling witnessed this scene. Piecing together the information he had, he finally confirmed the suspicion he had initially found so hard to believe. Chapter 92. 92, Song Family's Secrets. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 92. Song Family's Secrets. Translator. _min_ feeling deceived, Song Ling's anger flared. In a few strides, he went up to Gu Dai, raised his hand to grip her arm tightly, and demanded furiously, "Gu Dai, aren't you Miss Gu's assistant? Why are you now kneeling before the founders of the Gu group?" Gu Dai's brows furrowed in annoyance as she shook off Song Ling's grip on her arm and moved to leave, unable to understand why everyone seemed intent on bothering her today. Seeing Gu Dai's reluctance to engage with him, Song Ling's face darkened. He intercepted her again, his voice cold, "Gu Dai, did one say you could leave? Also, if you're an assistant, why would you be kneeling before the gravestone? What's your real identity, and what's your connection with the Gu family?" During his walk through the cemetery, Song Ling hadn't encountered anyone, which meant Miss Gu was not there. He could believe that attending a banquet could be delegated to an assistant, but refused to believe the act of paying respects at a grave was something possible. That could only mean one thing. Song Ling's eyes fixed intensely on Gu Dai, his tone forceful, "Gu Dai, you are Miss Gu of the Gu family, aren't you?" Gu Dai, already angered by being stopped twice by Song Ling, now felt further provoked by his incessant questioning. She stepped back with disdain and crossed her arms impatiently, looking at Song Ling. But Song Ling did not wait for her answer and continued, "You are Miss Gu of the Gu family. Then what was your purpose in getting close to me these past 3 years? To steal the Song family's secrets." At this, Song Ling's face was filled with mockery, his voice dripping with cold disdain. "How can you face my grandpa who has liked you for 3 years? You're truly incredible, pretending for 3 whole years for the sake of the Song family's secrets. You used to act so obediently in front of me, even claiming to love me and would do anything for me. Were those just your tricks? You truly disgust me." Gu Dai took a deep breath, suppressing the anger bubbling within her. She had thought that Song Ling was detestable enough before, but now, she realized he could be even more so. Thinking of how she had humbled herself to the bone for Song Ling these past 3 years due to her amnesia, genuinely loving him, only to be categorized as deception, made her even more furious. Gu Dai's eyes turned icier as she began, "In these 3 years, one remember every dish you liked or disliked. What you liked, I practiced relentlessly to give you the best tasting dish. What you disliked, I made sure you never even saw it. You hated being disturbed while working, so even when I fell, one would cover my mouth, not making a sound." Song Ling's face turned sour as he listened to Gu Dai's words, and he interrupted her coldly, "That only proves how far you'd go to steal the Song family's secrets." Gu Dai let out a sneer, "It's been so long since our divorce, if I'd stolen the secrets, why haven't one used them yet?" Song Ling's mockery froze on his face, and he opened his mouth, wanting to say, "You haven't had the chance to use them," but the words wouldn't come out. Gu Dai did not wait for his response, continuing, "And as I recall, 3 years ago, the Gu family was more prosperous than the Song family, wasn't it? What would make me demean myself for those mere secrets for 3 whole years? Besides, you always worked in your study, a room one never entered out of respect for you, and one never even went to your company. So tell me, how could one have stolen the secrets? Did I pluck them out of thin air?" Faced with Gu Dai's relentless questioning, Song Ling was at a loss for words, standing there dumbfounded. After saying her piece, Gu Dai turned and left without looking back. Upon seeing Gu Dai emerge, Meng Ji hurried over and, noticing her unhappy expression, asked softly, "What's wrong, Dai Dai? What happened?" Gu Dai managed to pull out a faint smile, shaking her head, "Nothing, 1 foot 11 inches drive. Okay." Meng Ji opened the car door for Gu Dai. Zhou Xi, who had wanted to say something, had been waiting outside. However, seeing Gu Dai's face as chilling as the Arctic ice, he dared not approach, and immediately after, his mouth was stuffed with mud. Chapter 93. 93, Break failed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 93. Break failed. Translator. Min when Zhou Ci thought about how he had not only failed to forge a good relationship with Gu Dai, but had also ended up with a mouthful of dirt, he wanted to get angry. But not daring to confront Gu Dai, he could only silently spit out the soil for a long while before finally cleaning all the dirt from his mouth. Zhou Ci, irritated, threw his head back to gulp down some water and was about to leave. Unexpectedly, the next second he saw Song Ling's face clouded with gloom, emerge from the cemetery. Coupled with Gu Dai's indifferent demeanor earlier, he felt that something unpleasant must have occurred between them. The irritation at the bottom of Zhou Ci's heart was replaced by curiosity, and he approached to ask, "Brother, what's wrong with you?" Song Ling looked coldly at Zhou Ci without answering. As Zhou Ci felt a chill at the bottom of his heart under Song Ling's gaze, he finally heard Song Ling's voice, "What are you doing here?" Zhou Ci responded, "Today is my grandmother's death anniversary. One came to see her." After his response, seeing that Song Ling ignored him again, Zhou Ci took the initiative to ask, "Did something unpleasant happen between you and Miss Gu in the cemetery, Miss Gu?" Song Ling repeated coldly, then asked Zhou Ci, "Did you already know Gu Dai's identity?" At that moment, Zhou Ci felt Song Ling's gaze was particularly harsh, as if wanting to kill him. Realizing this, he quickly shook his head and answered, "No, no, no, I just found out too." At first, I couldn't believe it, but then one thought about it, and it suddenly made sense. After all, someone from a poor background couldn't possibly understand paintings, or suddenly have such a powerful aura. Song Ling's body emanated a continuous chill, gritting his teeth and saying, "Gu Dai has been a liar for these 3 years." Zhou Ci was stunned, subconsciously confused. What? A liar? If there was a liar who had been selflessly deceiving him for 3 years, then he would be willing to be deceived. Song Ling did not answer Zhou Ci's confusion and drove away with a flourish. Thus, Zhou Ci once again ended up with a mouthful of dirt. On the suburban road. Gu Dai's face was cold as she stared ahead, her hands tightly gripping the steering wheel, pedal to the metal. Gu Dai drove both fast and recklessly, the car's nose nearly scraping against electric poles, but she managed to control the vehicle just in time, performing a perfect drift. Meng Ji looked at Gu Dai with his heart aching. His sister had grown up, and now had secrets she didn't want to share. All he could do as a brother was to ensure her safety, allowing her to vent her frustration. Meng Ji, an international race car driver, adapted quickly to this speed, but Lin Sheng, who was much older, was not so fortunate. His face was pale, and he couldn't help but feel nauseous. Lin Sheng spoke weakly, Miss, one feel a bit sick." Although Gu Dai was angry, she apologized immediately after she heard Lin Sheng's voice, "Uncle Lin, I'll stop the car now. Let's rest for a while." Gu Dai slowly pulled the car over. What none of them expected was that the speedometer needle suddenly shot up the next second, and the car sped off. Meng Ji, who was watching Gu Dai closely, realized something was wrong, his face turning pale. "The brakes are failing. Quickly pull the handbrake." Gu Dai, without a second thought, pulled the handbrake, only to find that it was also broken. Gu Dai, gripping the steering wheel, calmly said, "The handbrake is also broken, and the car's speed is even faster now." Meng Ji forced himself to remain calm. Dai, has anyone else driven your car recently?" Gu Dai shook her head, "No, this car was driven for the first time today, and it was checked yesterday. There shouldn't be any problems." The two looked at each other and simultaneously exclaimed, "The car has just been tampered with." Although they had reached this conclusion, it was of no use at that moment, especially since a large mountain was blocking the way, and the car was speeding towards it at a terrifying pace. Bang! Capital Hospital. After several days of rest, Gu Ming had regained consciousness, but the pain in his body was still tormenting him relentlessly. Even so, it could not stop his restless heart. Lu Min sat by the bedside, equally anxious. The two of them stared at the phone, waiting for an important call. Finally, the phone rang. Chapter 94. 94, Bring him here. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 94. Bring him here. Translator. _Min_Gu Ming and Lu Min's eyes brightened as they hurriedly answered the phone, anxiously asking, "Sister, what's the situation now?" Gu Si replied calmly, "Rest assured, you can trust me with this. My people have already responded." Gu Dai's car was so fast that it even crashed into a mountain, even creating a landslide. She is undoubtedly died this time. Gu Ming and Lu Min exchanged a glance, each seeing the joy in the other's eyes. Gu Ming, lying in bed, said excitedly, "It really has to be you handling this. Last time when one did it, not only did I fail, but one also ended up injured, and it still hurts." Gu Si clicked her tongue but said nothing, not expecting that after all these years, her brother would still be so useless. Gu Ming didn't notice Gu Si's mockery and voiced his inner worry, but 3 years ago, Gu Dai miraculously survived the cruise ship incident. Could she somehow escape death again this time? Gu Si said coldly, "One personally placed the bomb on the cruise ship 3 years ago. It's a shame that she didn't die there. But even if she survives again, as long as Gu Dai dares to show herself, I'll find another way to kill her." Gu Ming felt relieved and said, "Once Gu Dai is dead, I'll reclaim the Gu family's fortune, and we can live the good life again." Bedouin Gu Si was indifferent to this and casually said, "If there's nothing else, I'll hang up now. One have to get back to work." She hung up without waiting for Gu Ming's response. Lu Min, witnessing this, said discontentedly, "What's with Gu Si's attitude?" Gu Ming didn't mind, as long as she kills Gu Dai, any attitude will do. "And don't let me hear you talk like this again. Do you want to handle this yourself?" He then ignored Lu Min. On the bed, he looked grimly at the trees outside the window, his lips curling into a mad smile. "Gu Zhe, your only daughter is about to join you. Are you happy?" When Gu Zhe founded the Gu Group, Gu Ming thought he could get a managerial position as Gu Zhe's younger brother. But he was made to start from the bottom. Later, he made some mistakes at work, and Gu Zhe fired him without mercy. In front of all the employees, Gu Zhe dismissed him without hesitation. Gu Ming even heard that Gu Zhe wanted to hand over the company to Gu Dai, a mere woman. How could a woman inherit the company? Moreover, he once hoped that his elder brother would pass the company to him, but that hope was crushed by Gu Zhe's words. "Fine, if you won't pass the company to me, then you can die. The company will still fall into my hands." The thought made Gu Ming laugh, but the laughter pulled at his wounds, causing him to suck in a sharp breath. Thinking of the injuries caused by Gu Dai, his face became grim, and he muttered, "Your elder uncle will kindly arrange a coffin for you." The supposedly dead Gu Dai had returned home, her eyes intently fixed on her computer. Dense lines of code flickered rapidly, and in no time, a photograph appeared. Gu Dai signaled Lin Xing to come over and said, "Uncle Lin, 1 foot 11 inches, send you his address soon. Please bring him here." She emphasized the word "bring." Lin Xing understood Gu Dai's meaning instantly and nodded, "I understand." Then he quickly set off with his men towards the destination. Meng Ji, witnessing Gu Dai arranging everything, exclaimed, Dai, you're so amazing to be able to identify the person who tampered with the car in no time." Gu Dai smiled modestly, "It's only because the car's dashcam is connected to the computer. I just had to look for suspicious people near the car." Meng Ji didn't believe Gu Dai's humble words, knowing that most people wouldn't understand those complicated codes. But deep inside, doubt began to grow. Chapter 95. 95, Our Miss is busy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 95. Our Miss is busy. Translator. Min_Meng Ji asked, Dai, when did you learn coding? However, Gu Dai stood frozen in place for a moment when she heard Meng Ji's question. An image of someone teaching her gently and patiently flashed through Gu Dai's mind. But she couldn't remember who taught her or when it happened. And the person in her memory, who was he? Why couldn't she remember? Meng Ji had not expected his nonchalant question to cause Gu Dai's face to go pale. In a panic, he called out softly, Dai, what's wrong? Upon hearing Meng Ji's voice, Gu Dai gradually regained her senses. She shook her head gently to signal that she was all right, and apologized, I'm sorry, third brother, but I can't answer that question at the moment. Meng Ji quickly waved his hand, it's okay. I was just asking casually. Though inwardly very worried about what had just happened to Gu Dai, Meng Ji didn't want to upset her further, so he changed the subject. Dai, your racing skills are getting more and more impressive. Even I, a seasoned race car driver, was terrified during that close call earlier. I thought we would surely crash into the mountain, but you calmly controlled the steering wheel, and the car's tail hit the side of the mountain, bringing the car to a stop. In the end, we didn't die, and the car only suffered a slight scratch. Gu Dai knew that her third brother was trying to divert her attention, so she laughed and replied, my racing skills are all learned from you. How could I possibly be better than you? Besides, I saw how calm you were in the car just now. You didn't panic at all. Meng Ji slapped his forehead in annoyance and said, you caught me, Dai. As Meng Ji and Gu Dai were chatting, Wu Zhen gently knocked on the door. In a quiet voice, he said, Miss, there's a gentleman outside who wants to see you. Meng Ji's brows furrowed, a gentleman. Gu Dai accessed the surveillance feed of the villa's entrance and saw Song Ling on the screen, her eyes growing cold. Seeing Gu Dai's change of expression and looking at Song Ling, Meng Ji asked quietly, him. Seeing Meng Ji's cautious manner, Gu Dai said, third brother, you probably already know what I've been through in the past 3 years. Yes, he's my ex-husband, Song Ling. Meng Ji's suspicion was confirmed, and his anger ignited, I'm going to kill him right now. How dare he treat you like this? Having encountered Wang Lan during the day and Song Ling at night, Meng Ji was ready to confront them without holding back. As soon as he finished the sentence, he was about to storm out. But before he could leave, Gu Dai stopped him. She said, third brother, have you forgotten that we still have to deal with the people who tampered with the car later? Let's let him go this time. Although Gu Dai had said this, Meng Ji still felt unwilling. Gu Dai sighed lightly and said, third brother, do you know what's more painful than death? Meng Ji stopped, then asked in confusion, what? Gu Dai looked down, then let out a single laugh before she softly explained, probably when a person who hates being deceived suddenly finds out that they have been deceived by someone they trusted. Over the past 3 years, she had given her all to the Song family, only to be suspected by Song Ling of ulterior motives. If he knew that Jiang Yu, the woman he was about to, had been deceiving him all along, he would probably explode with rage. Although Meng Ji didn't understand the specific meaning of Gu Dai's words, he trusted that she must have had her reasons. Song Ling quickly received his answer. Wu Zhen, I'm sorry, sir, but our miss is quite busy at the moment and can't see you. Although Wu Zhen didn't know exactly what had transpired between Gu Dai and Song Ling, he could tell that this man had likely wronged her. Thus, he did not extend any friendly gestures toward Song Ling and promptly closed the door of the villa after answering. Song Ling's face turned ashen, and he kicked the door in anger, only to discover that it was made of iron. A piercing pain flooded his entire foot within seconds. He shouldn't have felt guilty about their conversation in the cemetery earlier. He shouldn't have come to apologize. Chapter 96. 96, Miss Gu is good. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 96. Miss Gu is good. Translator. _Min_Song Ling forcefully brushed off Zhao Xian, who came to help him, and limped into the car. Suppressing the pain in his foot, he slammed the car door shut with a loud bang and angrily commanded, "Drive." Zhao Xian, sitting in the driver's seat, didn't dare utter a word as he started the car. He still felt somewhat dazed, unable to believe that she was indeed the one he had previously guessed, Miss Gu of the Gu family, the chairwoman of Gu Group. Song Ling's gaze settled on empty space, and after a long while, he inquired, "Zhao Xian, what do you think of Gu Dai?" Zhao Xian had only wanted to quietly drive Song Ling home, but he realized that this conversation was inevitable. He thought for a moment before cautiously replying, "I think Miss Gu is a good person. She treats us employees well and doesn't treat us with disrespect." This was in stark contrast to Jiang Yu. Regardless, Jiang Yu was still the one Song Ling had feelings for, and Zhao Xian wanted to keep his job at Song Corporation. Hence, he refrained from finishing the sentence. Song Ling closed his eyes and continued to probe, "What else?" Zhao Xian responded, "Miss Gu is very nice to you as well." With that, he opened up, speaking freely, "Do you remember a year ago when you were infected with a contagious disease? Many people were afraid to approach you, but Miss Gu cared for you for several days without hesitation, not leaving until you had fully recovered." Upon hearing those words, Song Ling was stunned and incredulously asked, "But wasn't it my mom who took care of me back then?" Zhao Xian, hearing Song Ling's words, also paused. He carefully recalled the scene from that time, then denied, "I remember that it was Miss Gu Dai who wanted to care for you, and your mom, she was quite scared and was afraid to come near you." Song Ling fell silent when he heard Zhao Xian's words. Many things he had ignored began to resurface. Indeed, a year ago, Gu Dai had been avoiding him for a month, claiming she was unwell. At the time, he had thought she was feigning illness, which had only made him even colder towards her. Moreover, if it had been Gu Dai caring for him, why didn't she tell him? How could he have not known if she had? How could he have believed Wang Lan when she claimed that she was the one who had taken care of him? Although these thoughts ran through Song Ling's mind, his heart was unusually irritable, as if a fire was sweeping through his body. He still could not believe that the person who had cared for him back then was Gu Dai. After dropping Song Ling home, Zhao Xian hurriedly drove away at full speed. Song Ling's irritation grew as he thought further, leading him to call Zhou Ci. Zhou Ci quickly answered and teasingly said, "What brings the great young master Song to call me so late? Let me guess." After a moment of pause, he chuckled, "You must be calling about Miss Gu, aren't you?" Song Ling did not refute, simply responding emotionlessly, Zhou Ci laughed, "Brother, it's not that I don't want to tell you, but I only found out today that Gu Dai is Miss Gu. However, I can help you investigate further." Song Ling did not speak but asked, "Zhou Ci, what do you think of Gu Dai as a person? What kind of person was she?" Zhou Ci thought seriously. The old Gu Dai was gentle and considerate, with eyes only for Song Ling. But now, she was spicy and had a prickly edge to her just the way he liked her. The thought even stirred a desire to conquer her and fantasies of being together. Thinking of Gu Dai, Zhou Ci looked at the glamorous woman with heavy make-up in his arms and immediately lost interest. He patted her on the behind, signaling her to get off his lap. Once the woman had left, Zhou Ci spoke seriously to Song Ling on the other end of the line, "I've always thought Gu Dai was quite good." Zhou Ci's response made Song Ling's brows furrow, and he couldn't help but ask in an emotionless voice, "Why do you all think that woman is good?" Zhou Ci's eyes narrowed slightly, but he didn't answer the question. Instead, he asked, "Brother, have you noticed that your attention to Gu Dai has been a bit too high lately?" Bedodem Song Ling was taken aback, his eyes showing a moment of confusion. Zhou Ci continued, "You're already divorced. Whether Gu Dai is good or not shouldn't matter to you that much. After all, there's a saying that a good ex should be like a dead ex." Chapter 97. 97, Guilt. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 97. Guilt translator. _min_Song Ling rubbed his fingers against his phone and seized a moment to speak. Zhou Ci interrupted him directly and said earnestly, no matter the reason, you're going to marry Jiang Yu now. All your energy should be focused on Miss Jiang, otherwise, you're hurting both women. Song Ling pursed his lips, gazing into the darkness of the night, his voice indifferent. The libertine has begun to educate me now. Zhou Ci lightly chuckled, though I may be a libertine, one still have basic morals. For example, when dating a woman, one won't go and provoke another. Alright, brother, I won't talk further about such a simple issue. You should be able to figure it out soon. It was unclear how much time passed before Song Ling slowly came back to his senses. What Zhou Ci said was indeed right, he had been neglecting Ye too much lately, paying too much attention to Gu Dai. Regardless, Ye had saved his life, and he shouldn't be acting like this. Song Ling took out his phone and called Jiang Yu. After quite some time, Jiang Yu finally answered, Song Ling, why are you calling me so late? I was already asleep. Song Ling, realizing how late it had gotten after he heard Jiang Yu's words. He apologized, sorry, Ye, I just finished up. I remembered there will be a new line launching soon, so I wanted to ask if you like any of it. Though Jiang Yu wanted to say she wanted everything after hearing Song Ling's words, she thought of her gentle and sweet image in front of Song Ling and reigned in her excitement, saying, whatever you give me, one will like. Hearing Jiang Yu's thoughtful reply and thinking of how he'd neglected her recently, Song Ling's guilt grew. He immediately said, I'll arrange for someone to buy all of them for you. They should arrive in a few days. Suppressing an excited scream, Jiang Yu changed the topic to their upcoming wedding. Song Ling, what do you think about the venue for our wedding, and what style should we choose? As Jiang Yu spoke, Song Ling's thoughts began to drift. After a long pause without a response, Jiang Yu asked, somewhat puzzled, Brother Song Ling, are you still there? Song Ling came back to reality, responding softly, I'm here, one was just imagining the scenes you described. Jiang Yu asked, what do you think, Song Ling? Song Ling hesitated. Then he responded, I think your ideas are all good. We can arrange the wedding according to your plan. By the way, one have a meeting soon, so one have to hang up. Jiang Yu's voice, tinged with laughter as she replied, alright, Song Ling, sleep early after you finish your work. Song Ling said, okay. Staring at the disconnected call, Song Ling let out a sigh of relief. He wanted to control himself, but for some reason, whenever he heard Jiang Yu describing their wedding, he couldn't help but think of the scenes from his wedding with Gu Dai. Perhaps it was because he had only that one experience with marriage, so he couldn't help but recall it when planning his second one. Contrasting the silence on Song Ling's side, Jiang Yu's surroundings became lively again after hanging up. The colorful lights and exhilarating music of the nightclub resumed at Jiang Yu's gesture. Her friends, unable to contain their teasing, asked, what's going on, Ye? Was that a call from your rich soon-to-be husband? Jiang Yu lifted her head and revealed a triumphant smile, boasting, yes, and he just said he's buying me clothes from the latest line. I'll wear them to show you in a couple of days. Wow, Ye, your husband treats you so well. Yes, yes, we're all so envious. By the way, can you invite us to your wedding? We want to see the grand ceremony too. Jiang Yu's smile faded slightly at this remark. She was concerned about revealing her not-so-innocent image in front of Song Ling, since these people were not very good at deceiving. But she quickly recovered, laughing, I've already decided on the wedding decorations. As for the guests, that's my husband's decision. In our home, we each have our responsibilities, and we can't interfere with each other's. As compensation, all the drinks tonight are on me. Everyone laughed, stood and raised their glasses. Ye is so generous. Let's toast to Ye. Chapter 98. 98, and you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 98. And translator. Min_Song Ling had just left a few minutes ago when the door to the villa was opened once more. The creaking of the heavy door signaled the arrival of another group. A number of burly men marched in, their steps firm and coordinated. They were holding a man, whose hands and feet were tightly bound, his mouth sealed with thick tape. Lin Xing followed behind them, urging them to move faster. When they entered the living room, they unceremoniously threw the bound man to the floor. The man, Su He, twisted in pain, his facial features contorted in agony. Because of the tape around his mouth, he could only make a few muffled sounds. Lin Xing waved his hand to dismiss the bodyguards. As they filed out of the room, he addressed Gu Dai, "Miss, I've brought him here." Gu Dai and Meng Ji walked out together, their eyes settling on Su He, who lay on the ground. Su He's face showed a fleeting panic when he saw Gu Dai, but he quickly calmed down, his eyes burning as they stared at Gu Dai. Gu Dai said, "Uncle Lin, please take the tape off of his mouth." The moment the tape was torn off, Su He started taunting, "Beautiful lady, why did you have me tied up and brought here so late? Did you fancy me during the day but was too shy to approach, so you waited for the quiet of the night?" Gu Dai pressed a knife against Su He's throat, her voice cold, "I don't want to waste words with you. Answer whatever I ask, and don't try to play any tricks." Su He looked down at his own neck, realizing that Gu Dai wasn't joking. The sharp blade had already broken his skin, and fresh blood trickled out. Terrified, he quickly stammered, without daring to move the slightest inch, "One will answer truthfully." Satisfied with Su He's submission, Gu Dai temporarily withdrew the knife and picked up a snow-white handkerchief from the table beside her. She looked down, delicately wiping the blade, her voice soft but firm, "Did Gu Ming instruct you to tamper with my car?" Su He shook his head, denying, "No, it wasn't him." Gu Dai looked up slightly, her eyes coldly piercing Su He, her voice rising, "No." Meng Ji, not believing him, moved forward, his imposing figure dominating Su He's vision. He thundered, "You've come to this point, and you still want to defend Gu Ming. In that case, don't blame us for being ruthless." Su He shivered, fear apparent in his eyes, but he still tried to deceive after his mind quickly turned, "One don't know about any car, and I didn't tamper with your car. Besides, we're related. How could I possibly tamper with your car?" Meng Ji didn't expect Su He to lie, especially at this juncture. He lifted his hand and landed a punch on Su He's face. Meng Ji said, "One advise you to think before you speak." Su He's head reeled from the blow, stars dancing before his eyes. Gu Dai immediately detected an inconsistency and asked, "Who are you related to?" Su He gathered his wits and quickly replied, "I'm related to you. Technically, I'm your elder cousin. We're all family, how could I harm you?" Meng Ji couldn't hold back his anger and landed another punch on Su He, disdainfully saying, "Who are you, you clown, to call yourself Dai Dai's cousin? Do you think you're worthy to be compared to me?" Su He was knocked to the ground by Meng Ji's blow, and quickly protested, "But it's not something I can decide. It's a matter of blood ties." Gu Dai's expression remained unaltered as she calmly questioned, "One have surveillance footage of you near my car. I advise you not to waste your effort and just give up your pretense. Do you think your words are credible?" Once, Gu Dai had believed that family would never harm her, but now the truth was gradually surfacing. The confirmation of Gu Ming's involvement had made her realize that when it came to personal gains, there was no room for family. Gu Dai said, "You said you're my cousin, but I've never heard that Gu Ming has a son. So, are you his illegitimate child?" Su He, feeling the burning pain all over his body and hearing Gu Dai's stern warning, dared not lie again. He confessed honestly, "I am Gu Si's son." Gu Dai's eyes narrowed, her gaze chilling, "Gu Si's son." Su He turned his head to avoid Gu Dai's penetrating stare, but even so, he could still feel her intense eyes probing him. Finally, he could no longer bear it and confessed, "I am the son she bore out of wedlock, her illegitimate child." Chapter 99. 99, A Picture of Despair. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 99. A Picture of Despair. Translator. _min_. Who exactly is Gu Si? Gu Dai felt somewhat bewildered when she heard the name. Several seconds passed before she slowly recalled that she should address this person as her aunt. Gu Dai and Gu Si were not familiar with each other. Before Gu Dai was born, this aunt had married and gone abroad. No one in the family had ever mentioned Gu Si, and Gu Dai only knew of her by leafing through the family tree. Who would have thought that after so many years, she and this aunt would have a connection? That her aunt's son would cross half the globe, intending to take her life. With this thought, Gu Dai's eyebrows furrowed, and she lowered her eyes to look at Su He, asking, "If it's not Gu Ming who wanted you to kill me, then is it Gu Si?" Su He hadn't expected that Gu Dai and her mother would describe things so differently. She was not some naive young lady, the aura she emanated was particularly intimidating. Even he, who had bullied people for many years, felt a sense of fear in her presence. Su He dared not expose his mother, so he said, "It's not arranged by my mother, and one didn't intend to tamper your car." This was entirely done by Gu Ming. Gu Dai's eyes narrowed slightly, and she said indifferently, "Done by Gu Ming." Meng Ji had been unable to restrain himself and, upon hearing Su He's words, raised his hand to strike Su He. Seeing Meng Ji's action, Gu Dai did not seem to want to stop him, but said to Lin Sheng, "Uncle Lin, please close the doors and windows tightly." Lin Sheng hurriedly followed Gu Dai's instructions, but seeing Su He bleed from the beating, he became slightly panicked. He turned to the still calm Gu Dai, "Miss, please persuade Mr. Meng. Don't let him kill the man." Gu Dai nodded and assured Lin Sheng, "Don't worry, Uncle Lin, I won't let anything happen to him." With Gu Dai's words, Lin Sheng's anxiety subsided. Several minutes passed before Gu Dai called Meng Ji off, "Third brother, stop for now, one still have some questions for him." Meng Ji stopped immediately and stood beside Gu Dai. Looking at Su He, who was lying on the ground, barely alive, Gu Dai took out a silver needle and pricked it into several of his acupuncture points. Su He slowly opened his eyes, bewildered, Am one still alive?" Turning his head and seeing Gu Dai standing nearby, he confirmed that he was still alive and asked, "Why did you hit me?" Gu Dai said, "I remember telling you that one have a recording of you near my car, so it's definitely you who did it. Yet you still lied and said it wasn't you." Su He, hearing Gu Dai's words, hastily replied, "It really wasn't me, it was Gu Ming who tampered with your car." Su He cleverly continued before Meng Ji could make a move, "I happened to overhear Gu Ming talking about this matter on the phone. Although I have never met you, my sister, my mother told me about you early on, so I naturally felt affectionate toward you. I appeared near the car to check whether Gu Ming had tampered with it." Gu Dai glanced at Su He, saying dismissively, "So that's the result of your inspection." Su He lowered his head, looking as if it was all his fault, lamenting, "It's all my fault for not listening attentively to my lessons abroad, causing this oversight. Otherwise, one would have repaired your car immediately." Gu Dai nodded and continued to inquire, "But now I'm starting to doubt if it was really done by Gu Ming." Su He became agitated, exclaiming, "How could it not be Gu Ming? Do you remember the cruise ship explosion 3 years ago? Gu Ming arranged that. Initially, you had a plane ticket, but after the delay, didn't he give you the cruise ticket? He wants you dead. This matter is absolutely his doing." Gu Dai's face paled slightly, and images of that year's scene on the cruise ship flashed in her mind. The sky filled with flames, mournful cries, surging black waves, all painting a picture of despair. Chapter 100. 10. The Mastermind. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The Mastermind. Translator. _min_ Meng Ji noticed Gu Dai's unease almost immediately and reached for the glass of water on the table. He lifted it to her lips and comforted her, Dai, don't think about it. It's all in the past. One will always be by your side in the future, so you won't have to go through these things again. Gu Dai took the water and drank several large gulps, only then regaining her composure. She softly spoke to Meng Ji, who was worried about her. Third brother, don't worry, I'm fine. Seeing Gu Dai's pale face had indeed improved, Meng Ji finally relaxed. Gu Dai's gaze fell on Su He, inscrutable and mysterious, making him feel a chill down his spine. She finally spoke lightly, I can let you go. But once you leave, you should know what to say and what not to say. Su He's heart leaped with joy at those words, and he quickly nodded, don't worry, little cousin. One will never speak out once one get out. Hearing Su He's address, Gu Dai's brow furrowed, and she said irritably, don't call me that. Also, if you let this matter out, one have full confidence that my people can bring you back, without anyone noticing. You should have experienced this point full well. He had been in a crowded mall earlier, but no one noticed anything wrong when he was taken away. Even after all this time, the friend who had been with him hadn't come looking for him. Gu Dai looked at Lin Xing and said, Uncle Lin, have someone take him back. Lin Xing hastily agreed, and with a wave of his hand called in several sturdy men from outside the door to carry Su He out again. Su He was taken to the location, and only after watching the black car drive away did he gradually come back to his senses. He walked back to the mall where he had been earlier and found his friend, teeth bared, playing a video game. Thinking of his recent experience, Su He strode forward and slapped his friend. What the heck, who hit me? Su He, with a dark expression, snapped, it's your daddy, me. Didn't you notice I was gone? Why didn't you come looking for me? His friend was equally aggrieved, rubbing his sore head, his tone annoyed, didn't you text me saying you were going to buy something on your own? Su He's brow furrowed deeper as he opened his phone to reply, when did one send a message to? Seeing the glaring message on the screen, Su He was stunned. Recalling Gu Dai's words, he couldn't help but shudder. Meng Ji, seeing that Gu Dai had Lin Xing send Su He away, frowned and couldn't help but say, Dai, he's clearly lying. Gu Dai nodded, no. She had realized that Su He was not a good person, for he knew too much. Meng Ji, now even more puzzled, asked, then why not keep him here to figure out the truth? Gu Dai sighed, helplessly, he won't tell, and now that I've let him go, it's easier to draw out the real mastermind behind this. Meng Ji had always thought himself quite clever, this was the first time he felt intellectually inferior, as he understood every word Gu Dai said, but when combined, he couldn't make sense of them. Seeing this, Gu Dai still patiently explained, one always thought the cruise incident was Gu Ming's doing, but after hearing Su He's words, I'm starting to doubt that it was him. By all accounts, Su He, living abroad for years, should not have known about the cruise incident, yet he not only knew but knew the details. And since Su He had long been associated with Gu Si, could she have been involved in that event years ago? Meng Ji roughly understood after the explanation. He looked at Gu Dai, who was still deep in thought, and didn't want to disturb her. He looked down at the carpet stained red by Su He, and left the room. Meng Ji found Wu Zhen and whispered, Uncle Wu, please arrange for someone to buy the global limited edition carpet later. Price is not an issue. Wu Zhen nodded vigorously and excitedly responded, okay, I'll arrange it now. Great, young Master Meng is back. Although the young lady had always been strong and could handle everything, her hatred was too deep, and her heart must have been in pain. Thankfully, young Master Meng was now with her, easing her emotions somewhat.